Hi, Professor. This is my week 4 journal, the self-assessment. I began by completing the PAR-Q questionnaire, where I answered no to all of the questions and was cleared to take the assessment. However, I did scale the workouts as I'm a little fatigued and sore from completing 69 miles at an ultramarathon over the weekend. I substituted 3 minutes on an echo bike for the run and cut the push-ups down to 1 minute. Before beginning the exercise, I recorded my breathing rate at 20 breaths per minute, my heart rate at 60 beats per minute, and my muscle rate of perceived exertion at a level 6. This is according to the Borg scale, which rates perceived physical exertion on a 15-point scale from 6 through 20, with 20 signifying maximum exertion. Before the exercise, I felt at ease. My breathing and heart rates were relaxed and easy. My muscles are fatigued from the weekend's exertions, but otherwise relaxed. After the exercise, my breathing rate had increased to 32 breaths per minute. My heart rate had increased to 92 beats per minute, and my rate of perceived exertion on the Borg scale went up to about a 9 or a 10. Both my heart and breathing rates increased during the exercises, but not to levels that made me feel as if my heart was pounding or that I was out of breath. This is likely in large part due to the scaling of the workouts. My muscles felt relatively well during the exercises. This is not particularly surprising, as I stayed in the low to moderate intensity range, and my systems are well adapted to this level of exertion. The respiratory, cardiovascular, and neuromuscular systems all adapt to repeated bouts of physical activity. Increased exertion levels at the onset of blood lactate accumulation, greater maximal voluntary ventilation, and increased longevity of lung volume and pulmonary function are all respiratory system improvements associated with chronic exposure to exercise. Catch, McCardell, and Catch state that aerobic training increases the onset of blood lactate accumulation. This allows an athlete to perform at higher levels of their VO2 max without lactate accumulation affecting performance. McCardell, Catch, and Catch also state that training of the respiratory muscles improve their strength and endurance, which in turn improves maximum voluntary ventilation. Just as any activity requires muscle contraction to facilitate movement, ventilation also requires muscle contraction. This leaves respiratory function vulnerable to muscle weakness and fatigue. Weakness and fatigue rates decrease as training increases. Catch, McCardell, and Catch posit that sedentary living is the most likely determinant of decreased lung volume and pulmonary function associated with aging. Stated another way, regular exercise can increase the longevity of lung volume and pulmonary function. Increased stroke volume, increases in coronary blood vessels, and increased cardiac output are adaptations to long-term exercise exposure related to the cardiovascular system. Stroke volume increases resulting from training can be attributed to increased blood volume, reduced resistance to blood flow, greater heart contractility, and more complete filling of the left ventricle during diastole. Increases in stroke volume amount to greater blood flow throughout the body with less heartbeats. This means that the heart muscle incurs less strain with any given exertion, demonstrated with lower heart rates per specific power outputs. With regular aerobic training, the number of coronary blood vessels increases, as well as the density of their network and their number of locations. This provides the heart muscle with greater oxygen availability, an important adaptation as the heart muscle already uses 70 to 80% of the available oxygen from the blood in coronary vessels while at rest. Muscle fibers activated during exercise adapt metabolically, physiologically, and neurologically to specific training stimulus. One example of adaptation is the slow twitch muscle fibers in the distance runner's legs becoming more efficient at providing the contractions needed during moderate intensity steady state running after being exposed to repeated bouts of steady state running. Power athletes, known for short duration, high intensity bursts of exertion, are shown to typically possess enlarged muscle fibers, particularly type 2 fast twitch fibers, necessary to facilitate these high intensity movements. Whereas endurance athletes typically have normal sized fibers with a tendency towards enlarged type 1 slow twitch fibers, which facilitate long duration, moderately intense activity. The difference in muscle fiber characteristics between endurance and power athletes demonstrates very specific adaptations to different forms of physical activity. This is part of the basis of incorporating a variety of forms and intensities of exercise into a program built for overall health. Doing so helps to ensure that all of your bases are covered and that you're prepared for anything.